Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to 2024 and specifically our first pre-market prep of 2024. I'm excited to leap into a new year, but I also don't want it to, get anybody discombobulated or anybody feeling too anxious or overwhelmed. At the end of the day, time is a construct, and I feel like a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves to do a lot of things January 1st, January 2nd, January 3rd. Treat it like any other day because it is any other day, right? But you still want to treat it with the same reverence that you do every other day. So don't, kind of put it on your shoulders to clear cancer or erase all your student debt or, get rid of, completely all of your trauma in a day, right? That's not realistic. But what is realistic is what we aim to do here each and every day, which is getting 1% better. So, regardless of how your new year started, it's important that you continue to push forward and just keep that attainable goal in mind. You might not have had the best first day of 2024. I get it, right? It's something that happens. I had to drive back from out of town, and we had a baby in the car, and the baby had gotten car sick, and so I spent my 2024 wiping up baby vomit and driving with the smell of it circulating throughout the vehicle. So it's one of those things where, I can't just throw away the whole year because it didn't start the way that I would have liked for it to start. And I think that's the big deal kind of as we head into 2024, right? Is really just understanding that don't put yourself under too much pressure this week because there's no reason to, right? You don't want to throw the whole week away or the whole year away, the whole month away just because, January 1st or January 2nd wasn't too hot. Just make sure that you're getting 1% better. That's the goal. Make sure that you're taking this time this year to really sit down and say, okay, what do I want to get accomplished? And then write that out, right? You want to take time every single year in January to say, what are my goals for 2024? What do I want to get done? How do I get that done? What connections, what safeguards do I need to put in place in order to get that done? Right? What people can I have as my accountability partners? What do I need? What systems do I need to put in place? Are there any purchases that I need to make in order to in order to get done what I need to get done? For some, it might be an alarm clock. Bailey got this new Hatch alarm clock. It wakes you up with daylight with all these different sounds and something like that. If that's something that you need, cool. Get what you need and make those investments in yourself in order to do what you need to do. But just make sure that you take this time to do this. So you don't have to, completely change your life in a day, but you do want to take time each and every year in January to say, okay, what do I want to get done? Write that down so you can refer back to it, right? And check in on it and make those things part of your daily confessions as well. I have things I confess over my life each and every day. And the only way I've been able to see the repercussions that I have is because I confess this over myself. I hear it every day and I work toward it, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, right? So as we go into a new year, just don't put too much pressure on yourself and work toward success each and every day, right? But you definitely want to thank God for being here. It's not guaranteed for anyone. There are plenty of people who did not make it through 2023, right? Plenty of people. So don't just, wake up this morning and, kind of take it all for granted or just, throw in like, hey, we're back again, GM, we're here again for another day. No, it's important because a lot of people didn't wake up this morning, right? A lot of people have family members that did not wake up this morning. So it is an honor, as much as it gets annoying with everybody saying Happy New Year nonstop. It is an honor to be able to be selected to still be here for this year, and I don't want that to be lost on anybody because there are plenty of people. I'm sure that some of you guys are close to people that I was close to that did not make it. Right, they did not see 2024. So we don't want to take anything for granted, right? And the way that we honor them is by being the best that we can be. So let's go ahead and do that this week, right? Even though we're in another holiday shortened week, let's talk about the news that we have popping off in our first week of January. So the new year will start off with a flurry of economic releases to test the 9-week streak of market gains. During a holiday shortened week, investors will have an update on construction spending, manufacturing PMI numbers, the release of the minutes from the last Fed meeting, and the December jobs report fall in their laps. The non-farm payrolls report is expected to show that the U.S. economy added 155,000 jobs in December, while the unemployment rate is forecast to rise slightly to 3.8%. Average hourly earnings are anticipated to cool to a month-over-month pace of 0.3% increase. The first major companies set to report earnings in 2024 will include Walgreens Boots Alliance, Constellation Brands, whose ticker is STZ. They make all the snacks. And then Calmaine Foods, ticker Calm. Tesla will disclose Q4 deliveries in a report that could create a jolt in the electric vehicle sector. So that'll be important, obviously, with Tesla being something that we've been watching and also involved in trades in, with it breaking that weekly downtrend resistance, right? So Tesla with this deliveries info will be something that we're definitely keeping an eye on here this week. And it's worth looking up exactly when those deliveries are expected. Let me see. Hmm. Let's see. We do have kind of a lot to get through, so let's make sure. In All right. And they've got a 2023 target of 1.8 million deliveries. But yeah, I want to make sure we get through everything because that was kind of a longer morning spiel. So we're going to keep it pushing here as we go through what else we have this week. Conagra Brands reports on Thursday, Walgreens reports on Thursday, and then Constellation Brands on Friday. Data reports. Key reports this one. So key reports expected out in the first few days of the month include monthly Macau gross gaming revenue report. That's for casinos. Updates from Chinese automakers on monthly deliveries, quarterly sales / deliveries reports from General Motors, Ford, Toyota, Honda, and Tesla. Costco, ticker cost, is expected to release its December monthly sales report. Let's see what else we have going on here. Fast fashion Shein is confidentially filed for an initial public offering in the US. The IPO is expected to occur next year and aims to achieve a $90 billion valuation, which is higher than the current market caps for e-commerce players such as Mercado Libre, JD.com, Coupang, and eBay. Clothing brand Skims is in discussions to go public. The company, co-founded by Kim Kardashian, Emma Grede, and Jens Grede, was valued earlier in the year at $4 billion during a Series C funding round. Panera could shake up the restaurant sector after confidentially filing for an initial public offering. Sources indicate that the restaurant chain tried to sell itself via a continuation fund earlier this year, but could not get the support and eventually had to lay off 17% of the workforce to streamline operations and boost performance before a public listing. And yes, good morning. Good morning. Hello, everybody. Happy to have you on here. Thank you, Vivian, for that bit of information. Tesla beat Q4 estimates, so that's positive news for Tesla. But again, I hope everybody had a great New Year, had a great weekend. And if you didn't, I'm still sending you love. The holidays aren't a great time for everybody, so make sure you're reaching out to people. If you don't hear from them, take that time to reach out to them, even if they didn't reach out to you. I'm personally sending love to each and every one of you. I love each and every one of you because you're here, right, with me each and every day. We're family. We're all in this together. We all have the same goals. So I have that love for you, right? So just make sure you're checking in on people, and also not like throw it in people's face. You see a lot of like it's important for you to celebrate what this year was for you, but also just keep in mind everything else that people go through, right? Because again, some people lost people. For some people, it wasn't the greatest year. 2023 wasn't. So just kind of have that in mind, and as you encounter everyone, and encourage them in this new year, right? Encourage them in this new year. Make sure that you're not judging yourself too hard. You're cutting yourself some slack. If you did make it to the gym this morning, that does not mean you need to be overweight until 2025, right? You're like, oh, I didn't get it. Guess I'm gonna have to just aim for next year, right? No, the gym is open for the 363 other days that are in this year, right? It's still open today. It's just the morning, so you can go in the afternoon. So it's one of those things where it's like the only person that can limit yourself is you. So don't let any of this, any of these resolution things kind of get into your head or overwhelm you, because you can still do it, right? In terms of the corporate calendar, it's pretty light this week. Top executives from Merck and Bristol Myers Squibb will participate in the Goldman Sachs Healthcare C-Suite Unscripted Conference. Yeah, nothing too big there. So let's get into what we've got for our Monday specific news. The first pre-market prep session of the year It's just getting me more like hyped up even thinking about it. Like this is the beginning of a whole new year, a whole new slate. Let's get it. All right. And of course, 2024, right? Election year, year of the election. So that's the first thing that we're talking about here. Our top news for the first session 2024. So, year of the election 2024 is being called the biggest election year in history, with half of the world participating in regional, legislative, and presidential elections. So, this is a time in which the whole world can change in terms of the political scales, right? Who's in power. And you're seeing a lot of stuff going on because of that. This wasn't even included in the new year, but I saw that some politician in Japan got stabbed in the neck yesterday or something like that. There's also an earthquake that went on in Japan. So just be aware there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of geopolitical tension. There's a lot of futures hanging in the balances. So we can see some crazy stuff happen this year. So again, prayers up to that politician's family, prayers up to everybody in Japan. I did not know that there was an earthquake. Like I said, I was on the road, been with family, tried to not be on phones. That's why I haven't, I'm not the guy that's going to post the 2023 recap and this and that. I'm trying to be there with my loved ones and soak that in, right? I've been trying to be super intentional about being present. But, just it's already been a lot of stuff going on, but there's likely even more that's going to happen this year with everything that's at stake and where tensions are already. So geopolitical tensions were already some of the biggest investing risks going into the new year, and many of the coming results will determine how those pressures will be exacerbated or resolved. Complicating the situation is growing mistrust in the integrity of elections themselves, as well as the potential for online misinformation and algorithm manipulation during the campaign trail. In some countries, there is also a widespread risk of doctored results or mass protests in response to them. So we'll start off in Asia. The first big presidential election will take place in Taiwan on January 13th. U.S. policymakers will be closely watching the results for the tone on relations with China, which again pledged reunification with the self-governing island during Xi Jinping's year-end address. Elsewhere in Asia, Indians will go to the polls in April and May to decide whether Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his Hindu nationalist Bharatiya Janata Party will secure a third term. If I butchered that, I'm sorry. The country is rapidly becoming a global manufacturing powerhouse, helping investors turn bullish on the world's most populous nation. Something we've already talked about. I don't need to go into it anymore. But the world's next great gold rushes is in India, right? It is the new China. All of our tech companies are moving manufacturing there. So things are looking up for India, but it also therefore matters heavily who is elected there. In terms of Europe, European Russia is the most populated part of Russia, which has been in direct conflict with Ukraine over the last 2 years. Yeah, it seemed quick, but it's been 2 whole years of that conflict. Everything from energy to commodities has been impacted by the war with its neighbor, but neither side has shown any signs of achieving victory or motivation to compromise. No surprises are in store, but Russians will likely go to polls on March 17th, while Ukraine's planned presidential vote on March 31st is likely to be postponed, with the nation currently under martial law. Establishment parties are also bracing for some disruption during the European Parliament election slated for June, while the UK economy will be on watch, with Rishi Sunak promising to call a general election at some point in 2024. So while there are a bunch of elections scheduled, it's seeming like all the different geopolitical tension and the conflict that's currently standing is kind of disrupting all of the elections that are going on. And I feel like that can further add to controversy because you have all these countries and nations and states and all this stuff that should be holding elections and they aren't because of war or because of this or because of that. And that can, make for a lot of people calling BS, quite frankly, because you have elections, special elections that are held, or we're under martial law, so we can't do that. That's kind of the recipe for people saying this is messed up. You guys are swindling somebody, right? This person shouldn't still be in power. And it does give openings for things like voting manipulation and all that other stuff. Now, in the Americas, the presidential election cycle in the U.S. begins in earnest this month with the first caucuses in Iowa and primaries in New Hampshire. The campaign season will get lots of airtime with debates and sound bites covering the economy, immigration, infrastructure, and foreign policy. The vote on November 5th will not only decide the next president of the United States, but also feature Senate and House races, as well as gubernatorial elections. South of the border, Mexico will hold a presidential vote in June that could impact cooperation on trade and border security with its northern neighbor, while Venezuela heads to the polls in December for a predictable election outcome as the country gears up for battle with energy-rich Guyana. Yeah, that's something that could definitely cause some issues. Again, the issue as well is that we are kind of sort of in Venezuela's pocket right now where it comes to energy because we need more gas. We're getting it from them. So it's kind of like even though we know what's going to happen with their election because their elections are rigged, right? Maduro is just going to win, but they're gearing up to go to battle with Guyana, who as we know, if you tuned into the past few sessions, has a huge kind of pocket deposit of energy that was just recently discovered, oil, something like that. So of course, Venezuela is gearing up to go take that. Will we stop them? I doubt it because we need to get gas from them. So, again, it's like these are a lot of conflicts that we're going over that weren't even in the upper echelon, right, of discussion. They're not even getting the most coverage. But this stuff going on between Venezuela and Guyana is important, right? I mean, the UK, they went through they had three prime ministers last year. A lot of people forgot about that, right? China's holding general elections, Russia's holding general elections. LOL, right? Those same people are still going to be in power. But it's just there's a lot of stuff happening, a lot of stuff brewing. So just again, just be aware. A lot of people, there's this whole thing around interest rates where they're like, all we need is for interest rates to go down and then, everything is cured. That is not the case, right? That is not the case at all. Interest rates are not the only reason why inflation was the way that it was, right? In fact, if you remember back, inflation was the way it was because of a lot of external factors that we could not control. Those external factors are still in play, right? So just because interest rates come down at some point does not mean that the war in Ukraine is over, right? Between them and Russia, the war in the Middle East is over, right? Doesn't mean that the war that's happening right now in South America over this oil is over, right? None of this means that any of these conflicts are done, right? If anything, they're further heating up, right? We're sending out more maritime naval forces to the Red Sea because the Houthi rebels keep destroying cargo that goes through there, right? And pirates. So it's not. I wish that everything that impacted inflation was under our control, but it's not, and that's something that Jerome Powell has expressed repeatedly, and we have to keep that in mind, right? We've got to keep that in mind here as we move forward. That's not the only thing governing the dynamics of our economy. Cryptocurrency starting strong. Bitcoin rang in the new year by scaling new heights, surpassing 45,000 for the first time since April 2022, amid growing expectations that the SEC could approve a spot Bitcoin ETF as early as next week. The imminent approval caused Bitcoin to more than double in value over the past year, outperforming gold and global equities, although it still sits well below the 2021 peak of 69K. The upbeat sentiment lifted crypto-related stocks before the bell, including Coinbase, Riot Platforms, and Marathon Digital, ticker MARA. Quote, I suspect approval makes a nice narrative for Bitcoin going higher, but the chart shows us this as the more likely outcome without needing to predict the SEC's actions. I agree. That was a statement by Jason Appel. I agree, Jason, right? Whatchamacallit, Riot longs, Coinbase longs, Mara longs, right? We've been in for months. This is something where months ago we're looking at the charts of Coinbase, the charts of Riot, the charts of Mara, and saying, hey, you get calls 3 months out, you get calls a year out, those are going to pay hand over fist because of that big breakout the Bitcoin got. What are they doing? Paying hand over fist. Bitcoin seeing 45K, right? I think that breakout was around like 32, might have been even beneath it. Don't remember the exact number of Bitcoin, but after we broke that number, where are we going? Up. Right. So those long swing crypto related tickers, right? Long swing crypto related calls we've been in are killing it, but also the shorter term, right? I believe it was Mara. It was called out last week as a swing. So those still looking good, still looking up. We had a lot of interest, a lot of volume in terms of buying on Mara and on these crypto related tickers. This Bitcoin ETF has been something that's been talked about for a bit, but last week was when they put a date on it, when we were finally going to get some news, and people are optimistic thus far in terms of and also like for all the people who think, hey, like I'm in crypto and this is going to upend the banking industry and all this stuff. The banking industry will never be upended. Like for anyone that needs to hear that, you've got to come back down to earth and understand that no matter what technology comes out, the powers that be are in place because they've been able to weather the storm, right? Because when you think about it, you're saying, oh, well, these banks, they're going to be straight out of luck, right? For lack of better terms, when this happens with Bitcoin and the halvening and things like that. Who do you think is buying up all this Bitcoin, right? Who do you think is getting all this Bitcoin that's seized, right? Who do you think? The banks. The banks are the one that have been buying the heck out of Bitcoin and all these other cryptos, right? For the low. What do? You go, you tank it, you buy it up, and now they're the largest holders, right? It's governments and banks right now that are the largest holders of crypto. Why? Because of seizure of illegal crypto, and then also because they tanked it and then they're buying it up. So you can't escape these powers that be because they're ingrained in the system that will never fall. And that's the big thing, is that unless all technology falls, the banking system is not going to fall, right? And if all technology falls, the least of your concern is going to be the banking system. So for everybody who thinks that that's never going to happen, right? Oh, that was North Korea, the politician. Okay, was it? It was North. Oh, it was. You're right. It wasn't Japan. I think it was South Korea though. I think it was South Korea because I don't think in North Korea they even. I think it's just Kim Jong Un. I think he's just the guy. Um, but yeah, it was in somewhere in Korea, right? Somewhere in both of the Koreas. There was somebody, and apparently he's okay, or at least for now, he's not dead. But we're talking about, for any of you guys who don't have that schizophrenic brain like me sometimes, jumping back and forth between things. We're talking about that politician I mentioned that got stabbed in the neck, unfortunately, like somewhere. I think it was last night or this morning at some point, might have been yesterday. But yeah, when it comes to crypto, just don't, like, the banking system is not going to fail. The current financial system is not going to fail. It doesn't matter how much consumers own Bitcoin; they own that much or more now that it went down in the dumps for so long, and it's starting to get this approval. Right, the reason why they needed this approval is so banks could get involved even more. So this isn't one of those things where, like, oh, soon banks will no longer be used. Right, when you own that much crypto, yes, they're going to be used. In terms of energy news, the high seas, right? So oil prices are advancing after Iran deployed a warship to the Red Sea as tensions in the key trade route continued to escalate over the weekend, right? Just I didn't even see this, right? This is just, we talked about this earlier, and you see even further escalation now. Front month NYMEX crude for February delivery and front month Brent crude for March delivery gained more than 2.5% each. While Iran said it deployed the warship under a routine mission, the move was made after the U.S. sank 3 Houthi boats attacking the Maersk Hangzhou, killing rebel fighters for the first time since the Red Sea attacks began. Maersk has since temporarily halted shipping. Maersk is like the biggest shipper in the world. So keep an eye on shipping stocks as investors size up freight rates and additional war risk premiums. This is not maritime. This is wartime. In peacetime, you don't kill people. It's as simple as that, right? We say that we're deploying peacetime forces, and then we proceed to sink 3 boats, killing rebel fighters for the first time since the Red Sea attacks began. So at this point, it's not just the Red Sea out of name. It's the Red Sea because blood has been spilled. So we're seeing continued escalation, right? And this can affect energy, food, water, all of this. And I'm not saying this to scare people. I'm not out here fear mongering. That's not what I want to do. But I'm also not going to be that guy that's going to say, hey, there's this possibility of this happening. Don't worry about it, though. Everything's going to be okay. No, everything's going to be okay because you understand what's happening, and then you take the necessary precautions, right? Make the necessary moves, or at least have the necessary consideration when choosing other things, right? Maybe if you're thinking about going out and buying an original Hummer, right, which gets -3 miles per gallon, maybe you say, I think I'm going to hold off on that, right? Because of what's happening, right? You say, "Oh, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna do this. Maybe I'm gonna go like switch to a propane tank." I don't know anything about that, right? But you get what I'm saying. Like, as you go to make these decisions, it's important to make them with the full consideration of what is going on in the world, because you might think it doesn't affect you, but the world is small. The world is very, very small. Everything someone does affects something else in another part of the world. Everything that goes on, right? So you want to take that into consideration just as an adult as you're making decisions. You might be looking to go out and purchase a boat, right? You're like, you know what? I want to go out and sail 2024, live life, on the water. Cool. Just understand you might need a little bit more money for fuel than you had originally thought, right? That's the thing where it's like you can still do what you want to do. Just make sure that you're doing it taking the right things into consideration as you do it. Because I don't want you to go get that boat, get that original, Hummer H1, and then now it's not something that you could afford, and you're in the hole even deeper. This news is for everyone, not just people that trade with stocks and with options and things like that. They get the most out of it. They get to take it and turn it into money, but at least normal people can just turn it into not losing money, which is also important. In terms of automotive news, EV credits, the new year means that just 13 electric vehicle models are now eligible for the $7,500 consumer tax credit in the US. That's due to tighter rules surrounding sourcing battery components made by Chinese manufacturers. Vehicles that are still eligible for the full tax credit include variants of Tesla's Model Y, Rivian's R1T pickup, Stellantis's Jeep Wrangler, or excuse me, yeah, Stellantis's Jeep Wrangler 4xe, General Motors Chevrolet Bolt, and Ford's F-150 Lightning pickup truck. Nissan's Leaf and Tesla's Cybertruck fell off the list at the stroke of midnight, but still qualify for a $3,750 tax credit. That's $3,750. In terms of today's markets, mostly red across the board. Asia, Japan were closed. Hong Kong down 1.5%. China down 0.4%. India down 0.5%. The footy in London down 0.3%. Paris down 0.4%. Frankfurt down 0.2%. This is, again, as of like 8:30, so might be changed now. But the Dow down 0.4%. S&P down 0.6%. NASDAQ down 0.9%. Crude oil up 2.1%. Gold up 0.4%. Bitcoin up 6.4% to $45,448. What else is happening? Japan is dealing with earthquake aftermath, but trading closed for holidays. Baidu abandons $3.6 billion deal for Joy's, ticker YY, like the letter Y and then the letter Y. So just two Y's is their stock ticker. Baidu abandons $3.6 billion deal for Joy's China live streaming unit. BuzzFeed, ticker BZFD, asset sale to miss target. President steps down. California expands health coverage for undocumented immigrants. Nokia does not expect to meet fiscal year targets after AT&T contract loss. AT&T's ticker is T. Las Vegas casinos look to ride hot streak in 2024 thanks to F1 race. ExxonMobil, ticker XOM, exits Iraq oil field. PetroChina takes over. COVID vaccine makers top laggard list. Eli Lilly leads gainers. Morgan Stanley positive on healthcare services despite election year. U.S. IPO market began recovery in 2023, but global market fell further. Speaking of Eli Lilly, I believe that they had a nice little bit of consolidation going on the weekly, possibly in lieu of a weekly breakout. So that's something to keep on watch here. Kroger is something that I've been watching, and Kroger had a little alert that I saw was set off overnight as I woke up this morning. The beautiful thing about having your alert set up and your alert set is you wake up with opportunity automatically hot and ready, right? Like Little Caesars Pizza. That's what we're looking to do this year, right? Not only this day, this week, but this year. Make sure that you get your whole family together. My family always does it. We'll do it again this year. Get your family together, write out your goals, make those goals plain, set up and put in place systems that can help you maintain accountability and responsibility to achieving those goals. And also give yourself some grace, because you're not going to wake up at 4 a.m. every day and go run 10 miles and then come back and do 1,000 push-ups and then have a six-pack by February, right? But you can work to do, 50. I'm trying to get back into working out myself, right? I was running and then everything is busy with the holidays. You fall off. So I fell off track, trying to get back on track. It was freezing cold this morning. It was like 30, 37 degrees. I'm not going to go out and run on my first day like that. I'm just not. But I did get up and I did some push-ups, right? And I felt fine about that. Just work your way into it, right? Bit by bit. Understand that, you don't have to wait till 2025 if you do fall off. But getting 1% better every day is all you got to do. That's all you got to do. You'll start to see some major change. So whether it was a great year or a horrible year, 2023 is in the past. We've got a brand new 365 in front of us. Let's make sure that we make the most of it. Love all you guys. Let's make it a great year. I'll see you back here tomorrow morning for our next pre-market prep session. Have a good one.